wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, a disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic with this logic, you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
I'm built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop coming.
Hey, welcome everybody. Appreciate that you guys are stopping by my little corner on the big wide world of the interwebs. Appreciate that you guys stopped by. So if you're an artist and you guys are struggling with things like, how do you draw anatomy? How do you draw figures? And can you draw figures, with imagination straight out of your head? How do you guys do it? Right. Well, I mean, for one, this is comic book, so it's cartoony. So this isn't going to be exact anatomy. This isn't going to be a figure drawing class. I mean, there are tons of channels out there. If you just Google figure drawing, if you want to learn figure drawing, I'm just going to show you guys, not so much in a demonstration. I'm actually just going to be drawing a comic book page that I'm actually working on. And I've already drawn some poses, but I think I want to try a different pose. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do that live. I'm going to show you guys how I draw these poses live. And if you guys are wondering, I'm using a program called Clip Studio Paint. Now, Clip Studio Paint, I know somewhere in Clip Studio Paint comes with figures. If you look on the side, it's preloaded with all these 3D assets. I don't ever use them. I don't really know how to use them. I sometimes will use, like the basic cube just to kind of get a perspective. And then I use my perspective grids. I line it up on that cube just to help me in my perspective every now and then. But I know that somewhere in here, they look like they got a baby face, some faces, but I know there's somewhere in here, there's figures that you can kind of like pose or something in here. I've seen people do it. I don't know if it's preloaded. I mean, this is all the stuff that's like preloaded. And I think maybe they download it because I can see here that there's like a little, if you want to download these poses, I guess you can download it off of their cloud or whatever. I went online and tried some of their 3D assets that they've got, and I got like a little truck and a cowboy hat. I tried getting a horse, and I tried moving these 3D assets. What you do is you can just kind of grab them, pull them over, and it kind of shows you this horse. But then when, it's the hardest thing to use. And even like, I don't know what it's doing. So I just go, I don't got time for that, man. Plus, when I try to pose these 3D assets, they're stiff, they don't look relaxed. So I just go, I don't need to mess with that stuff. I downloaded it because I have free Clippy points. If you get Clip Studio Paint, which I highly recommend the program, it's a great program. I'm not making fun of or knocking or trying to, deter anybody from getting Clip Studio Paint. It's a good program made for drawing comic books, whether it's European, Eastern, Western, whatever comic book you're going to draw, manga, whatever. It's a good program. So Clip Studio Paint is a great program, and it's got all these 3D asset things. If you want to use them, don't let anybody deter you from using them. If it's something that will help speed up your workflow, then by all means use it. It's just my personal opinion. For me, when it comes to figures, I do not use a 3D model, photographs or anything like that, because of the fact that they're very stiff. And cartooning in comic books, you want characters, you want to be able to draw your character, very, very relaxed, very, very loose. And so sometimes, I will redraw a pose or figure that I have drawn simply because I don't like the pose. But you can look here, there's a woman down on the ground, all that's just, it's easy to do from imagination. Now, the step that you're not really going to see here when I start drawing is that you're going to draw things, everything, anything that you draw is going to be from, anything that if you're, let me start that over. Sorry, I was reading your comment at the same time. So when I'm drawing these figures, now you got to keep in mind that I'm drawing them in basic shapes, right? Anything you draw can be broken down into basic shapes. So you really don't need to rely so much on 3D assets. You don't have to rely on photographs. Now, a photograph is a good source of reference. Now, I use photographs of women wearing Indian, Native American, indigenous outfits. I Googled all that. The pose you don't need because of the fact that you can break down the human anatomy into simple shapes. And I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of what I'm referring to. So what I'm referring to is, if you think of, people would always say, someone would say, well, I can't draw the human figure. All I can do is draw stick figures, right? People would say that to me all the time. Whenever I said I meet somebody and go, well, they would find out I'm an artist, or I would say, they would ask me, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a professional artist. And they go, oh, you can draw. That's great. I can only draw stick figures. And to be honest, that's the beginning. That is how you start to draw your figures. So you start with, it looks like a cheesy little stick figure, right? But then if you take this stick figure, right, and we work him into simple shapes, there he is. He's chilling on a chair. That's a stick figure. That's where it all begins. It's very, very simple. You start with a very, very simple frame. Then we get into just a little bit more of an advanced look. And then let me get my pencil. So we get into a little more advanced level. And so your head is the human head. Oh, it would help if I get black ink. The human head is, and I'll zoom in a little more in case you guys need to be able to see. The human head is always going to be a bit of an oval shape. It's really a circle. Then you add a bottom section of it, like an to be the jaw, but it's basically an oval shape. Now we all know cylinder shapes, right? You guys are very familiar with that. As long as you know your basic geometric shapes, you can follow along with this very, very easy. And then I'll show you guys, we'll go even further. We'll go to more advanced, and then I'll show you guys how I draw this stuff. But we'll go through this in a crash course very quickly. So the neck is that cylinder right there. Now the torso is always going to be this kind of misshapen. It's going to have a bit of a flatter surface up top, but it's going to kind of come down like this, like in a point, because your rib cage is always going to have that little upper area. If you feel your rib cage, just follow your own rib cage, and if you got a little extra meat on the bones, just dig a little deeper, find your rib cage. It's there. We always want to put little joints wherever you're movable, right? Shoulders, neck, elbows, wrist. You're going to have these joints. You're movable. So you got we got the upper part of the arm, which is the bicep. You got your forearm, right? Now we've got the hand, and we'll just put the hand in a basic shape. We're not, hands and feet are a whole nother area that, that need a whole course and example for themselves. Your waist area is going to be a bit of a cylinder, just a small little bit of a cylinder. You make a bit of a triangle for the pelvic area. You're going to have some more joints up here. And then we have the legs, right? We have your thigh. We have your knee. We have where your shins go, right? We got some more joints there. And we got some feet. Now, this is just quick, crude fast little shapes that I'm just showing you how you can bend and then move that figure along. It's all geometric shapes. You visualize it in your mind's eye. So we go through something even a little more advanced once we start to kind of understand that everything is geometric shapes. Now we want to draw a figure in a pose, but we want to kind of draw it with minimal lines, right? We want to kind of minimal lines like this. And we just kind of work. Oh, my computer decides it's going to update. I got an update going on my screen that you guys can't see yet. Sorry. Let me just, it's almost done. It says, there you go. It updated. All right. So very quickly, very loose is that figure on the chair that we drew earlier, right? Minimal lines, just real quick, fast shapes. So what I'm about to draw, when you guys watch me draw, this is just the way that I approach things, but this is just a real quick crash course of the type of, I don't want to say science behind it, but the type of formula that's behind it. Everything is geometric shapes. And I'm going to stress that over and over because, you know, it seems I don't want to say that it was a big roadblock even for me when I first started. How do you draw the figure and how do you move it around within your head? How do you draw these poses? You know, I was struggling with that at the beginning as well. So I know what that is like. Once you can visualize it, once you can understand how to break things down in the simplest form, any pose you want to draw becomes very, very simple. You first have to visualize it in your mind's eye. You have to have that image up here before you can transfer it on paper. So you have to learn to move and rotate objects like this. That is just a square. But in 3D, right, in a three-dimensional area, it has now become a cube. What you do with your mind in your mind's eye is you learn that, you know, basically there is like a vanishing point. So what we do is we learn to take this thing and rotate it in our mind, right? We visualize it and we're spinning this thing around in our head. We're just trying to visualize, and it's any shape at all. You know, there's just what is just simply a circle. But if we were to put just a little bit of shadow on it, or if we put some geometric frame in it, it becomes a cylinder, right? I mean, it becomes a, instead of a circle, it becomes a sphere. I'm just starting my day out. Sorry. I mean, I just sat down to draw today. So my brain is like, you know, all over the place. And if we give it a cast shadow, we've given it a plane. We've given it weight, shapes and shadows. So geometric shapes, our light source that we used on this circle to become a sphere, and a little bit of plane and cast shadow. So you're going to see some of that as I'm drawing. These are quick, crude crash course in it. I'm assuming you guys are already at that level. You guys are just wanting how to draw, how I draw these figures. And that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to go ahead. I like this pose. So in comic books, it is it's a sequence of stories. It's storytelling through a sequence of images that we call sequential art. So with sequential art, isn't necessarily frame to frame as you would see in animation or in a movie. This is storytelling where we establish a scene, We then show where all the characters are in relation to one another. Then we tell our story as where the characters move, but there can be gaps in between. So let's take this image in this bottom panel and let's cut that one out. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to paste that into its own layer because I want to redraw that scene. So if we look here, we see that there's a cowboy. He's about to enter into an area, a cabin. He's entering, excuse me, into something, right? Some kind of habitat. You know, it's either cabin in the woods, a ranch house, something. And then we see his face. You know, he's kind of got this look on his face, almost, he's a bit shocked at what he sees. And there he is at the door, in the door entryway. And he's got his hands on his hips on the guns. As we pull back, we see that there's maybe somebody he knew that he was visiting. Looks like he's getting eaten up by these creatures. Right? We get to see the hand of one, we get to see the face of another, and it frames the image, and the way the perspective goes draws your eye directly to that cowboy with his hands on his hips on his pistols. Somebody's eaten up. So the next panel, I want it where we had it where the cowboy drew both pistols out, straight on shot, right at the viewer. It's a good camera angle. The guns are right at the camera angle. It would work, but I want to give myself an option here in my storytelling. So I am thinking what I want to do is I want to change that camera angle. So let's just say, going back to our stick figure, let's say you got a stick figure who's right here, right? Here's your man, I even forget sometimes how to draw stick figures. Let's just say there's a stick figure. He's standing right there with his little gun out. And we've got like an old school camera right here. It's on a tripod. And the camera is just straight out at him as he's pointing both those guns, right? And we'll move his arm instead of being down low. He's pointing both the guns straight out. There's the camera straight on. What I want to do is simply just take that camera and I want to rotate it. I want the camera like this, up there. What would that angle look like? What would the footage look like if we had that camera up above our figure and he's shooting, right? So let's find out. Let's figure out what that looks like. It's going to require some foreshortening. So he's wearing a cowboy hat, and I want to rotate my page a little bit. Kind of helps if sometimes if I rotate my page and so let me think here. Cowboy hat. It's all geometric shapes. I'm foreshortening the cowboy hat. Make a point as it comes near the front, and I just kind of keep working it, finding the all the shapes and just kind of keep working that in there. His head would be in here, so we're not going to see much of it right now. It's basic geometric shapes. You know, his eyes would be there, maybe just a little bit of his nose. Some of that mouth would be showing. Got some of his neck right here. So if the camera angle is up above, we're going to foreshorten a lot of him. Right? And all just simple shapes because I'm just planning in my head. That's all. I'm just going, oh yeah. You know, I want him pointing his gun out. Real simple. The camera's up above and I go, well, it's cool, but it's kind of stiff. what if I take, oh, my computer's decided it want to take, oh, there it is. That was on me, not my computer. Sorry, computer. All right, so what I'm trying to visualize in my mind is I want him to be pointing the gun. So, got to get my pencil moving and visualize in my head. How I want this to go. There's a barrel right here. And the revolver, that holds the ammo. Let's take his some of that jacket. Let's erase some of this stuff, and we'll start building from that arm. Got to get the head in here. And going to erase the hat. I think I want the other gun kind of visible in here. He's kind of got his thumb. The other gun will be up here coming through. And then you just keep working the drawing. Let me see if I want to keep working his head. I'm going to bring his head back where it was. And then just keep working it. Because I need the posture, the gesture. His posture to be. And I'm going to redraw the head again. But I do like the idea of the head kind of being kind of down, and because he's trying to do when you, well, if you've never fired a firearm before, there's a certain way how you position your hand. You always want to kind of line up with the with your sight. So you kind of want to keep your eye level going with that sight that's right here, that kind of thing. I'm Texan, so don't want to shock you guys if you guys are like, oh my God, he's fired firearms. It's Texas. Yes, every Texan has probably fired a firearm on their, as early as their 12th birthday. I don't know. It's Texas. So I'm starting to work in a little bit on the face, shape of the face. Just kind of working it. And because I'm digital right now, I don't worry so much about size and proportion right now. I'm just thinking, there's the jacket. I'm gonna draw through because I'm, like I said, I'm digital. And so I just work the drawing, work it, work it. Let's go through and just zoom in a little bit. Just work some geometric shapes for the structure of this nose. It's going to be covered up most of his face, but I want to get the basic shapes of his face in there to help me with my accuracy in the drawing and stuff, just to know where things are. So that's about all I need right now. All right. Now he's kind of got this gun and he's pointed out, but I think I would like for it to be a little more foreshortened. I think so. What I'm gonna do, I'm a big believer in this. You've drawn something once, you can draw it again. Erase. That's what you do. You erase. Don't be afraid. You drawn something once, you can draw it again, and if you draw it again and again and again, it gets easier. It gets and you get better at it. Simple shapes. There's my cylinder, elongated cylinder. There's another cylinder for the revolver that holds the that is holding the ammo. This is without a ruler, just freehand. This is just a basic underdrawing, just trying to work my drawing out. And because I'm foreshortening that gun a little bit, that gun has to have a bit of a perspective like this. It has to be just a bit wider in the front, thinner as it goes back on that barrel, because I'm trying to establish the, let's just show, if you can kind of see where that barrel is just kind of fading back. We're going to have wider opening here, and this would be just a little bit smaller. We've rotated that barrel, so that has to go in perspective if you want to make more dynamic push. You're forcing the perspective on it. Just to, let me get my pencil. Where's my pencil? So I'm going to foreshorten the arm as well. The arm is a cylinder, remember? And we've got the other arm. Now we want that in the frame. So what I do is I just bring that back down like that. And I just keep drawing. I don't really worry right now about all the detail that comes later. Mark Silvestri would always say he's a fantastic comic book artist. If you guys are unaware who he is, shame on you. Go look up Mark Silvestri. He would always say, draw big shapes, your big shapes first, and then work into your smaller shapes down to your detail. That's what he would teach, the type of process. He's not quite a teacher, but he did teach the young artists that came through his studio to work with him. So now I'm starting just to refine my drawing. All right. Now, if he's firing a pistol, a bullet, we could do these little cool little things like this. If he's firing it, right now he's just going to be drawing his pistols. So you have the center of that circle to help keep it in perspective. I could draw these crosshairs so that it all lines up right through the middle of it. I was able to just draw it by eyeball. That's just because of years of doing this foreshortening. Right. So here is, I got to narrow down that barrel just a little bit. It's a little big, but I'll reference a pistol when I get to the finished pencils. These are just my layouts right now for my comic book. This is a comic book called Darklanders. And Darklanders is a story about a cowboy who is cursed. A cursed cowboy. And his journey from what he knew of the Wild West becomes the Dark West. And we journey through with him as he learns and realizes that there is a supernatural world that has been hidden behind the veil of night. He gets introduced to it. Once he's cursed, that's when he's able to see and becomes part of this world. And it's life-changing for him. All right, so I'm just going to kind of put a cowboy hat on him. I'm still going to I'm going to show you a little thing that I do when I'm digital, but let's see. Let's get the cowboy hat on him. I tried downloading this. Like I said, I don't really use 3D assets. I tried. I'm not against it. If you guys want to use them for reference, by all means, go ahead. I'm not one of those that's going to shame you for it. You know, anything to help speed up your workflow, I think. I believe in that. You know, meet your deadline. Your deadline's what's really is really important, you know. So I will go through, slowly rework more and more. But let's just say that's our basic pose. Well, one more thing I want to do is, because the hand is up a little more towards the camera, I'm going to enlarge it just a little more. Just to be a little bit dynamic. And because he's holding two guns, I want the other gun visible in that camera angle. I want it to be seen in there. So I'm going to just work his little bit of his jacket. He's got this collar there. Still working that jacket. I'm not happy with it yet, but let's work his back a little more. Little by little, I'm chipping away, just going at it little by little here. And the drawing will start to show just a little more detail. And remember, this started from basic, it was a blank page, basic geometric shapes. And but we're keeping in mind the storytelling. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. I'm going to go with a little smaller pencil, just zoom in a bit. Just kind of reminding myself, okay, this guy's got some hair. It's trying to figure out exactly how I want his hair. Let's just finish a little more on that ear. Just to remind ourselves that there is that this guy is human and he has an ear right there. Let's just kind of get ready to draw in some hair. And also as well, I'm going to erase his mouth while I'm here. While I'm zoomed in, I might as well start working on that expression just a little bit. His eyebrows, I'm going to change them. But first, let's just finish in that hair. My cowboy's got lamb chops. Just drawing in those basic shapes real quick. Just finishing in some of that hair real fast. Doesn't have to be too accurate right now. And over here, just a little bit of lamb chop coming through. I'm going to fix his jawline. And high cheekbones. You know, like Clint Eastwood, very, very, very good cheekbone anatomy that very, very like indigenous and Native Americans. We have high cheekbones. This guy's, you know, he's not, but Clint Eastwood had that and it shows up great on camera. It's good features. Give this cowboy that because that's kind of who he's modeled after a little bit. He's not Clint Eastwood, but in my mind, he is. When I draw him, I just go, oh. And in my head, that's who I visualize. Give him a grimace. Give him a Roman chin. Keeping that high cheekbone on the other side as well. He's got those lamb chops. They go a little bit over his ear. So I apologize. I know you guys have questions, but save them and just post them in the chat if you have any questions along the way. I'm really just letting you guys watch as I work, and hopefully you guys can pick up some stuff that you find useful to use in your own work. Maybe you guys have your own way, your own process. And if you do, this isn't the only way to do things. You always, as an artist, you go with what works for you. Each artist, we all have our own little process of how we like to do things. And there are some fundamentals that you do have to achieve before you have to learn before getting to this, to be able to do things like this, to draw from imagination. Just some basic geometric shapes. It's all you need. Once you have that, you can draw your figures straight from your head. And it gets easier and easier as you do it. Let's draw that Roman chin just a little bit. Very strong jaw. This guy's a pretty tough guy, you have that stronger jaw. It shows, you can take a punch. You're harder to knock out the stronger your jaw is. And I think that's why we like our heroes. We draw them with those strong jaws. So I'm just this is still a very loose drawing. I still haven't put in any of my rendering or my detail, any of that stuff. Not worried about that stuff yet. This is just to get the drawing, in here. Then I will flesh it out even more, work on it more and more as I go. And sometimes I just draw this stuff just to see how it looks. And if I don't like it, I won't even use it. So here is the new drawing. The previous version, he's straight at the camera. 2 barrels pointed straight at the camera. It's pretty good. I just thought, well, I want to practice my storytelling. What if I want to rotate that camera? Thought it'd be a good time if you guys want to watch me just draw straight from imagination. So the other thing too, what I like to do afterwards, because I'm digital, is I like to play with the shot a little bit. I drew all this stuff just to cut out most of it. So then I will take my selection tool, delete that, and there is some of the new storytelling. So we start out, cowboy is entering. He's entering some establishment. It could be a ranch house, could be a cabin, and get to see an expression on his face where, I dilate the pupils. His eyes are a bit wide, blank expression, but you see it in the eyes. You dilate the pupil, open the eyes. You can see that there's something surprising him, but he's a cowboy in the old West. He's a man's man. Men don't react off emotion, right? As humans, we shouldn't react off emotion. If you act off emotion, there's going to be consequences for it. You're going to find yourself, in harder situations. But if you can act off, be a little more reserved and analyze the situation before you react. Don't react off emotion, right? So maybe this guy was military trained. I don't know, but he's a cowboy. So you see it in the eyes. He's surprised at whatever he is looking at. There he is at the doorway. He puts both hands on his holsters. He's getting ready to draw. We zoom out. We see that there is someone on the floor, maybe somebody he was coming to visit, maybe somebody he knew, and that person has been ripped apart by some type of creatures that we don't quite see yet. But we see a huge mouth and just big, fangs. We see another hand, and it's got big claws. So here he is. He's getting ready to draw his weapon, his pistol out. And give him his little bit of that color. That would be right here. And let's bring his shoulder a little more over in front. And that's pretty much it. That was just, thinking up your story out of your head and just sketching something directly from imagination. And all it is, these are just, a lot of times these are just my notes to myself as I'm thinking about my story, and trying different camera angles, different things. It didn't take very, very long. How long is the stream been? The stream hasn't been, how long do we do? Maybe a half-hour sketch. I always start my streams out kind of chatting away, and we spent about half hour on this. And then I can work it even more if I decide I want to use it and keep it. If this is the pose that I want to go with. I'm gonna bring his cowboy hat down just a little more there. Maybe bring it up more, reshape it. But right now, this is just my looser drawing, and I'll continue through the comic book like this until every page is drawn like this. Once I have every page like this, then I'll go through. Once I've settled on all the flow of the storytelling, I will then flesh out the drawings even more. But that's basically it. So if you guys have any questions at all on how we drew something from imagination, again, basic geometric shapes, visualizing it in your mind's eye, knowing how, in your mind's eye, having a direction. If you ever get artist block, it's because you don't visualize it in your mind. And if you're not able to visualize something in your mind, that just means you have to strengthen your imagination. It's a muscle. It is something that needs to be exercised. You need to just let your imagination go. Visualize things in your head. Also, as well, experience life. You need to. I live in Texas. I've seen tons of cowboys. I've ridden horses. I've fired firearms. It's part of our history here in Texas. So it's easier for me to draw on the information that's been recorded based on actual experience from life. SCS Powerlifting. Are you going to remove the border around the shooter? I think that would look badass. That's another good idea as well. The panel, you can make him where he's not in a panel as well. So what SCS Powerlifting is suggesting is if we were to take this and have our page like this with him down there in the bottom, and I think, you know, maybe bringing him up like that. And we can reconnect some of him in here. And have an open panel just like that. That's a really great suggestion. I do appreciate that. I think that was, I think that works. I think that's a really good, really good suggestion. So I'm gonna just shorten that barrel a little bit, just so that it makes sure when the page gets cropped, it doesn't get cut from it. But that's basically it right there. You know, just having a variation, you know, as to, I could have it pointing straight out both barrels. There's two of these creatures that are in there, so you could be pointing them on there. Or do I want to rotate that camera and just kind of put a little more, just a little more weight and action by forcing that perspective just a little bit. And that's the reason why I gave myself a second option right there. And then just kind of tweaking that perspective right there. But that's basically it. That's how you you just draw stuff. You just draw it very simple. Don't worry about details. Don't worry about your light and shading as you're going. As I begin to flesh my drawings out more and more, I'll then begin to add more and more of, and I can even put in some of that doorway back here. Just simply because he's not floating. Then I'll put a perspective grid in here. Right now I'm just kind of drawing that perspective grid very lightly. So you can kind of see he's in a doorway. And then I'll work on, I freehand that perspective. Then later I will actually put down a perspective grid and clean up my lines. But that's the drawing. Other than that, I would just be fleshing it out more and more if I were to keep working on it. He says, just around the top of the hat and the gun. Well, then that would break the panel. I could break the panel that way if I wanted to draw the eye down. I try not to break panels too much. I really like this idea of taking rid of the whole border and just opening up like an anchor panel down on the bottom that goes through the base of it. Otherwise, I'd break the panel, and I want to show blood on the floor underneath his feet. He's in a pool of blood on that top panel, and I don't want to cover that up. So, but I like this. I like this idea that you, I guess I kind of misunderstood a little bit, but I like it. It works out. It's pretty good. So thank you so much, guys. That was it. Basically just drawing from imagination, just draw something directly out of your head. A lot of times has much more energy and dynamic and more life to it than if I were to try to sit and take any of these 3D assets and try to put 3D assets. A lot of times they stiffen things and slow things down. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to keep going on working on this book. This book is called Darklanders, and it's got a lot of really great stuff in it. You guys, I think, are really going to enjoy this book. If you guys want to keep up to date, anything I'm working on, go over to jimmyreyesart.com, and at jimmyreyesart.com, guys, scroll down, sign up for my newsletter. And a lot of time I give away freebies for Clip Studio Paint, like brushes, wallpaper, auto actions. I give away, templates, all kinds of stuff for free. And if you sign up on that newsletter, that's how you get them. You get them free on the newsletter months before I remember to finally put them on my Gumroad page. So sign up for that. And whenever any of my campaigns or books, whichever book I decide to go with, when it goes live, you'll be notified directly through that newsletter, jimmyreyesart.com. Thanks a lot, guys. And you guys all take it easy, and see you guys again on the next live stream.